but today, joined by my friend and colleague, Chad Hutson. I've known Chad for quite a while, always admired his work. Just a wonderful, insightful, brilliant human being. So with that, I will hand it off to you, Chad.
Wow. I don't know if you can see blushing over Zoom, but thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure to be here. I will start this thing. Okay, I've already said hello. You already know I'm Chad. Very nice to meet you all if I don't know you. And I'm going to talk about a few different topics here, if you guys are okay with it. First, talk about a kid, which was me when I was younger, some of the odd jobs that were done. We'll talk about some work and also talk about things happening today. Only the good stuff, though. And if you're open to it, I'd like to share some friendly advice. But certainly want this to be a conversation. I'm not used to talking about myself much, so we'll get through some history, some work things, and then hopefully you're down to chat. So if you're ready, let's go. When I was younger in the 80s, I was a geek at heart. I loved all things geeky, and computers were fairly new at the time. I think the Apple personal computer is what was in most people's homes. We didn't go that way. We went with the Tandy or Radio Shack TRS-80 color computer, which I learned a bit of basic programming on, some made some light games, math programs, and played a lot of video games. But that geekiness certainly stayed with me for a bit. When I got into middle school, I was learning how to play piano and went to a friend's house who had a synthesizer and thought, this is freaking amazing. So got more into making my own patches, editing waveforms, and just trying to make cool things out of my keyboard. I got better and even decided to join a band. Um, this this sexy visual here, you got the mullet, you got a 1980 style hat, all these strange guys making their sexy faces. It was a lot of fun. I was 16 playing with other adults and playing decent sized gigs. But music industry, that's what I want to do. I'm not a geek anymore. So I went to school to study audio engineering. Thought I could be a producer, make something come of this. Um, Learned everything from electronic music composition, how to use sequencers, things about copyright law. Just thought this is my future. And then I did move to Nashville and had a few interesting gigs. It's not an industry that pays very well, but first worked for a country musician named Alan Jackson, worked for a venue development company that never actually developed a venue, but I learned a lot in the process. Um, Copyright administration company, and then also a record label called Oh Boy Records, if any of you guys are folk fans or know of John Prime. Thing about the music industry, though, it can be pretty disheartening. You realize that it is a business, artists get taken advantage of, and it was kind of sad to see. But lucky for me, I had some friends who their firm had been acquired, and he said, "Hey, come help me run my company out in Las Vegas. We have an audiovisual company. We do work with Universal Studios Hollywood. We work with Hard Rock Hotels. There's a lot of really neat things you can learn." So moved out to Vegas, learned a thing or two about not only managing an office, but also just pulling cable and learning some basics of AV. That gig then led to work for another exhibit design and fabrication company called MC Squared. They're certainly still around today, do a lot of work. And they created at the time something called a new media division. So got to know those guys pretty well. We would do like sizzle videos for trade shows or live presentations using Flash and Director. But met some kindred spirits because we were all starting to geek out over what was happening with motion design animation at the time. Firms like PsyOp, Digital Kitchen, MK12 were making some amazing film and television title sequences and just doing crazy things with CG for TV commercials. So it was a pretty inspiring time. have some of those tools at our disposal and start to create. So this new media team and I decided to form this little company called Eat Drink. And it was largely video production, or animation more specifically, and on the interactive front, some like flash and director presentations, but largely web work. We were doing work with Island Def Jam Records, doing artist sites, and same for Nitro Records, if you're familiar with that punk label at the time. The reason why I think we did this is because I personally did not have the talent that any of my other guys did. It's a little bit like my career in the music industry, more of like a super fan than anything. But just saw my role as more of an organizer, a business person, a seller, a producer. We had a pretty good run. That was like 2002 when we started that, so shortly after 9/11, and had a pretty good run up until the next big catastrophe in our country, which was around 2008, 2009, was a huge financial crisis. You remember that. So all my partners who were around, they went to go get paying jobs, and I was kind of left with this big timber loft in Chicago, where I'd eventually moved, and wondering what the hell I'm going to do. So interesting thing happened. I got a phone call from a friend of mine that had a project opportunity with Disney Imagineering, and the gist was there's an experience on a cruise ship out in the middle of nowhere in the ocean, and what we want to enable kids and families to do is when they're eating dinner, want to give them this placemat that can draw their own character using this little outline. And as they get through dinner, there's going to be a huge show that happens where their favorite Disney characters like Mickey, Donald, Goofy will be up on these monitors right next to where they're sitting, and they will then see their specific character on that very specific monitor, dancing and having a great time. Today, that sounds like, oh, that's simple. You can whip that up. Hell, AI could probably make that happen in no time. But this was 2009, and the challenges of having a real-time compositing system and that kind of playback, kind of composite as it's playing back, just not really something anyone knew how to do. But lucky for me, I knew a smart guy named Matt Daly. He was a whiz with Maya, a popular 3D application at the time, and touch designer as well, which I'd never heard of. But to go back to what Josh is saying, yes, definitely more familiar with touch designer now. So we pulled this project off, and that was some inspiring times for us for sure. We were seeing companies like Blue Cadet, Red Paper Heart, Obscura, which is now Essence Square Garden / The Sphere, Hush, Moment Factory. All these groups were doing just very beautiful experiences that incorporate elements of broadcast quality content, animation, and different types of interactivity. So, but this seems like a great time. So let's do this. So that's Matt Daly on the left. He and I were starting to plot and scheme about how to even put a company together because I'd just come out of not so great spot, and Eat Drink had kind of bounced back. I had some cash in the bank, but we really wanted to make this a successful venture. So Matt was our nutty professor, if you will, and he said, I'm pretty good at what I do, but we need someone with a really polished design sensibility, a creative director. So he said, do you know Jason White? I do. So we pulled Jason in the mix. He's the guy on the right. And we formed something thought I still think today was pretty special. Jason's unfortunately no longer with us. He passed away late last year. So it's a very tragic tale, but his legacy certainly lives on. And that is Leviathan. So we formed Leviathan in 2010, opened our doors. The name stuck through 2021. There was an acquisition in the midst of that time period, which I'll talk about again in a moment. But we tried to do as much cool shit as we possibly could. We didn't think very much about budgets and such. We just took whatever money we were given and we made it as amazing as we possibly could. The first project that really I'll put Leviathan on the map is for an artist named Amon Tobin, and he had a album called Isom that he had launched or was launching at the New Tech Festival in Montreal in 2011. So if you're fans of projection mapping, Matt and some of his friends had done a good bit of it back in the early aughts, early and late aughts. But this was definitely on a pretty large scale. This set, as you see, is just a stacking of different white boxes. And trying to pull off a complex projection mapping setup like this on a nightly basis was difficult. So Matt and his team developed a projection alignment tool. And if you're in AV now, you would probably know that projection alignment tools. You could sell that with any and all projectors that are out on the market. But at the time, nothing really existed like that. So coming with that projection alignment tool and then working with a number of amazing designers and animators, fluid sim artists and such, it was a pretty awesome project. And that really what helped launch us into being. Really love the idea of interactivity, and Touch Designer does enable that to a large extent, but we started dabbling with Unreal Engine as well. This is a project for the Griffin Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, and we were pulled in by a couple of partners, Lucy Creative and Ravenswood Studio, to create this dive simulator. And the submarine is literally right next to it. It's a full-on shit you not German U-boat. It was just massive. So we're trying to come up with a simulation, a game, if you will, without making it too hard, but had to be challenging enough just so you could convey the urgency of trying to survive in underwater at the time. But really helped give us a knack for not only working Unreal, but doing more with physical controls and working with built elements. Now, working with a group of talented artists, surprise, surprise, they actually wanted to create art. I was like, come on, enough of this commercial stuff. We just want to create and make things beautiful. So we had a pretty rare opportunity. It was a very competitive RFP, or request for proposal, that came out. And it's for the lobby of Hyatt's corporate headquarters in Chicago. Pretty interesting form factor. It's almost 130 feet wide, close to 20 feet high, of individual LED video blades. I think this is probably around 2015 or so. It's an interesting canvas to work within, and with these gaps and spreads and different heights. But well, this will be fun. So the resolution was also super high. It's again, for the time, it was quite a bit, but it was 4K zones, if you will, so 16K resolution. And here's the kicker: the owner of the project said, "I don't want to see any of the same content over the course of a week. I want 7 days, all original content. By the way, this also runs 24 hours a day." So it seemed pretty intimidating. I think a lot of companies that pitched on this, which there were some formidable foes, were pitching hours upon hours of pre-rendered media, this linear video content. But thankfully, I worked with some pretty smart folks, and they said, let's make it generative instead. So I think the team, smart bunch, includes Braden Webb, Adam Berg, and David Braun. If any of you know him from the Touch Designer community, and they built out probably 10 or 12 different generative engines that could do things like ingest low-cost stock photos and videos that could be bought in bulk, and being able to transition them in different ways. There was a lot of power and control for the curator who ran this installation. So she could change colors, speeds, patterns, upload different stock images. You could upload black and white line drawings, and there was one specific engine that it would trace lines like this. So we'd have city maps, and the computer just intuitively create that artwork. So we could say it's AI. I hate to throw out buzzwords like that, but certainly a lot of generative content that was created along with a scheduling system, content management system that also allowed other artists to contribute works to it. So it's pretty cool that it still exists today, and artists also still contribute works. So again, that being around 2015 or so, um, we thought we were hot shit. We were presenting on stage, and there was this guy that we'd seen some of his work named Rafik Anadol, and I was cool to be on stage with him. I think we all know whose career really took off, but I'm so glad that generative art has a home in the world. Um, Another cool project that I threw this in because it's also part of part of my journey. It's a project for Nike that was in Shanghai, China, and it was definitely a dream. It was a brand that we'd always wanted to work with, and it really combined all the different elements of physical, digital. It was a first opportunity for us where we actually got to design the entire experience, both physical and digital. Because normally Leviathan would just be brought in to handle digital activation, and there'd be other groups who held the the main contract, and they got to control the narrative, the space, make all the technology decisions in some cases. So this was pretty special. Think of it in terms of part retail activation, part art installation, and part digitally activated obstacle course. So a number of different obstacles with a large screen behind, and we use LiDAR sensors to um, track the movement of folks through these. So it would, for one, trigger different pieces of content that would play on the large screen, and it also helped track their movements as far as the leaderboard, because this was a competitive kind of situation. Media influencers, a lot of pretty people wearing sneaker boots, and it was kind of honestly, I don't even know if we entirely knew the point. They just said make it look cool. So we did, and it was terrific. It's also right around that time that I think that was 2016 over Thanksgiving, and those of us who were still there, we were getting tired. Running a business like that, where it was hot and cold was tough. So some folks that run a digital agency in Southern California called Envoy, they called up. We'd worked with them previously, and they talked about acquiring Leviathan. So we were excited, flattered, and that was 2017 when that deal went through. I stuck around through to help run it through 2021. So uh, still lives on today. Leviathan is now known as Envoy. Check them out. They still do some great stuff as well. But I needed to find my next home. And as what I learned from the Nike project is I love digital experience design, but I would like to be involved in something where there's more of the physical nature. And then came along this company called DI, or Dimensional Innovations. I'd heard of them a little bit. They are in Kansas City, and we come up against them a few times, and I think we won one and lost one. But like, who the hell is this? So I got introduced to the CEO, and as you can see from some of these images here, they do some pretty spectacular, very large scale projects, and have one hell of a team here in Kansas City. Uh, Took the role as a chief strategy officer, and they have a home of about 200,000 square feet, 240-ish people, design studio employees, folks with architectural backgrounds, UI, UX, motion design. We have an engineering team that will take all the wild ideas they come up with and actually turn them into as-built drawings and tool paths. The technology team is pretty awesome. We not only have software developers here, but also a small audiovisual team of about 8 folks, so we can do some light um, system engineering and install and service. We'll work with a lot of great partners in that world too. Then comes the physical stuff. There's a main shop that incorporates wood shop, metal shop, paint. We have a full graphics studio here as well. We can do physical graphics. Then we have a giant 3D printer that's about 2 stories high and about the size of a car wash. So a lot of capabilities here, and it really is a special place. I'm glad to be a part of it. This sounds like a DI infomercial. I promise I'm talking about the work too, just to give you exposure to it. But there's more to experience design than just the digital side. So DI will work on signage and wayfinding, help people make it through these large sports arenas and stadiums. There are brand activations out in the main space, but there's also luxury suites that also have branding and such. Number of digital components, brand driven and otherwise, but pro sports is a big part of DI's world. We also do a fair amount in the themed entertainment world. This is at Legoland in Carlsbad, California. Something called Ferrari Build and Race, which is kind of like what it sounds like. You get to build your very own Ferrari using Legos. You get to run them through different types of test tracks. There's like a slow-mo video capture. There's this scan your own Lego built Ferrari digitally and then race it digitally with other folks. Um, Family friendly, fun, tactile, but also digital as well. Some of you may be familiar with either executive briefing centers or customer experience centers. I'd say if you work in the world of experience design, this is it can be both cool and lucrative at the same time. Um, these are large corporations that are selling products or services. In a lot of cases, they are meeting with other company executives or sometimes even government dignitaries or just VIPs that can make big decisions and can spend a lot of money. So something else that the DI has really used as a niche is combining that physical spatial design, that experience of warm hospitality, but also a little bit of surprise and delight, and a whole lot of technology that can be used to tell complicated stories and also varied ones for different verticals that they're trying to service, be it government, university campuses, or corporations. This particular type of practice, it's pretty near and dear to a number of our hearts. Some say they work in healthcare. We specifically work in pediatric healthcare. This will be a space where young child may be getting treatment for cancer or having blood transfusions. It's no fun. It's no fun for them. It's certainly no fun for their families. And it's not like digital activations or other whimsically designed spaces will make them forget about why they're there, but just certainly want to make them feel more comfortable. Donor recognition is also a big part of that because there are individuals and large corporations who donate generously to make these spaces as advanced as they are and as welcoming as they are. So the donor recognition for this particular project also extended into creating a system for anyone who's visiting, families or otherwise. They can scan QR code, pull the web app, and then they can make donations right there on the spot. And yeah, pretty fun and easy to do. Last thing I'll mention as far as projects go, I have one more, but really excited to work on the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, which will be in Medora, North Dakota. We didn't get to design it, but we are fabricating it. And yeah, look for that next summer. Okay, probably what everyone at DI is most excited about is something called Atlas 9. Atlas 9 is, I'm sure you've heard about all kinds of other immersive art experiences. I'd say it's a bit of that mixed with some live performance theater and some other surprises. But we're building it right here in Kansas City. We got to conceive it. We designed it. We're building it. It's both physical and digital. And it's nuts. We've just done things like this or want to do things like this for our clients. And when no one else would build it, we said, screw it. We'll just do it on our own. So it's a pretty sizable space. Here's one of the elements. You can see this robot, which will be coming out of the ground just outside the building. You can see the set of robot being part of the narrative here. But think in terms of a 1990s movie theater, gaudy carpet and everything. And in this particular theater, there's a piece of cutting edge technology that kind of goes awry, and it makes all the different films that are in there come to life, and some weird stuff starts to happen. So pretty neat experience. It's not vaporware. I swear to God, it's real. This is the outside of the building as it currently sits here in Kansas City. It's about like just under 50,000 square feet, 2 stories, and a whole lot of experiences packed in there. Here's another shot of the sort of the entranceway of that. There are a number of different um, regional artists as well as national artists of some renown that are contributing artworks in entire rooms in this space. And there are also a number of different storylines that that are here. And so not only can you take one of the different storylines, but each journey is always going to be a little bit different based on how you interact with it. This is also a full-size theater, so it hopefully gives you a sense of the size and the scale of what this space is going to be. So as far as some of the technology goes, I can't share a ton, but this is an example of as part of the narrative, you as a visitor are scanned for certain types of energy to make sure that you are safe. What it's actually doing is capturing your likeness. I will also add that you are going to be armed with an RFID band that allows your signature, if you will, your presence to be known throughout the space, and you literally become part of the story. So one similar example of using your likeness is we use AI to, once you capture your image, it's then transformed into different narratives, and so you will see yourself in the story, depending on which path you choose and how you interact. But this is just one quick example of my good friend Chris. You saw his image before. There's some pretty neat things happening with AI tools. It's coming this fall here in Kansas City. If you've never been to Kansas City, come on down or up wherever you are. It is definitely a cooler city than you might think. Okay, coming up towards the end here, I wanted to share some friendly advice in hopes that it can foster some conversation after I'm done yapping, and see what you think. So something that we say a lot here at DI is start with the end in mind. Have a strategy if you're conceiving of an experience or even a part of an experience. If you're not asking your client or yourself or your team the right questions, uh, they're pretty simple ones too. Why does the space exist? Who's coming here? What do they expect to get out of it? What do we want them to take away from it? Who are these people? Are there different narratives we need to tell? So it's just thinking about what you want the outcome to be, and you start with that, write it out long before you even start to design anything, because the design should be informed by that strategy. You can make something that looks amazingly cool, but if it doesn't fit, if it doesn't fit the space, if it doesn't have the right purpose. And same for the narrative. Your strategy can inform all that. Have you ever seen a movie that goes off on a tangent, or read a book that there's just some section there? Like, does this even have a purpose within the story? And I think that's what the strategy is there for, is to help you think that through in advance and keep everything on rails. Next, I'm a huge fan of technology. It's cool, it's amazing. It helped build my career. But if you've ever worked with an architect and they're making, say, a big lobby, very impressive lobby, and they put a gigantic screen in a lobby, you can't help but ask, like, so why is the screen here? What's it going to do? What content is going to be on there? It's like, I don't know. It seems like a lobby needs a big screen. So if you're going to have technology, make sure it has a purpose. It should be part of the experience in the story. Because if you force technology in there and then you have to figure out, well, now we need an angle for why the technology is here. We need to give it a purpose versus the purpose being determined by the need of the guest or the viewer. Something I learned here at DI is, technology is cool, but it's also expensive. It can eat up a project budget quicker than anything, whether it's a series of projectors or direct view LED. It's expensive, and even though I love it, sometimes people love tangibility. They like getting their hands on things, and so going analog is also a great option. And it's not to say you can't have technology enabling that analog piece. Let's say if it's a sculpture and it's embedded with lights, there could be a sensor that triggers some lighting events, then maybe that can be powerful too. And oftentimes it'd be more intuitive. We all get sick of screens, so let's try some analog stuff too. Um, Also, technology is cool, but gosh, I mean, what client or what team member, maybe yourself, thought this like, oh, I want to use the latest sensor, the latest screen, the latest AI. But if it's not been around for a little while, shit can happen. And I might suggest going with some older school technologies that are a solid state. They've been run through the ringer, and just try using them in different ways, in surprising ways. Because the new stuff will break. God knows, learn some hard lessons there. So cutting edge is sharp, careful, or it will cut you. Lastly, this is kind of a selfish shout out for myself. Take a chance on a generalist. I studied all kinds of stuff. I'm just kind of floundering around in the world, but um, whether you're whether this is you or whether you have a business or you're hiring other people, take a chance on a generalist because they have a variety of experiences. And experience design is it's complicated, it's weird. So having folks with knowledge of a little bit of this, a little bit of that could really be a powerful team member for you. So yeah, bring on more generalists. They are hungry, they are curious, and they will make your teams better and stronger. I think it's time for questions and talking. So I'm going
All
to
right,
stop
let's
sharing.
do it. Chad, thanks so much, man. That was awesome. All right, I'm sure there will be plenty of questions. Um, but I'll start it off a little bit. I'm actually really interested in I'm sorry, what was the name of the thing that you guys are spinning up yourself? Atom 9, was
Oh,
it
Atlas 9. Yeah.
Atlas 9? I should have written that down on a post-it. So like, okay, what's the process that you guys are going through to do that? Because like being your own client is like absolutely brutal. And like doing that at that scale seems like incredibly daunting. Like how are you doing it? How are you making that happen?
Oh, man. I'm not sure how much inside baseball I can share, but I mean, certainly there's the funding, which is one thing, but the other is just, I mean, because we have all these resources under one roof that understand some of the nuances um, of physical fabrication and construction. It was definitely a team effort because we have a, a general contracting arm called DI Build, so they have to look at it um, from literally from the ground up, like from the dirt to building the right size building to what are the requirements for that entire structure to exist. You have the different types of artists. You have technology team. So just getting into the room and really loving a lot of stuff up too. We came up with so many different ideas and just had to be honest with ourselves. We consulted a lot of folks on the outside world, even Vince from Yowolf to talk through some ideas. So just also had to do a ton of homework, going to see other location-based experiences, and we can also prototype a lot here. So I think just even trying and failing with those also helped us to get to where we are today. So it's definitely wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. I think the idea was born during COVID, and there
Ah,
were just a lot of noodling. And can't ignore the business side of it as well. There's some other operational partners who are one called Quixotic that does think of a term like burlesque live performance art. How could we incorporate live performance into these experiences with real people and not just having those exist on their own? Another group that operates things like escape rooms or axe throwing, and that's where the business side came in. Like, how can a business exist without just ticket sales? What else is going to make it happen? So we really just pulled together a lot of creative folks, a lot of business folks, and a long-winded answer, but man, it hasn't been easy, but we're really excited about that opening up this fall.
I love it. I love it. I'll have to make a trip. Craig has a question. Craig, do you want to ask yourself?
Don't be shy, Greg.
Sure. So I teach a course on dynamic experience. Don't make it sound like I'm the world's leading expert. We get a lot of support for the course at FIT. Josh and a bunch of experiential designers give advice on it over the years. Is there a skill a student should particularly focus on that is overlooked? We design and build prototypes, so we can go a little wide on any type of skill sets you might want to bring up.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, to say experience design is also it's kind of a loaded statement, right? So
Well, we're just focusing on dynamic, just exactly the area the area you're in.
gotcha. I mean, you heard my spiel about generalists. I think just trying different skills from software development to understanding how audiovisual technology works and its place in the world. Is there a skill? I mean, I don't know if you can teach curiosity. I don't know if you can have a class on it. Uh, I don't know if you can encourage experimentation and failing fast anymore. But I'd say those are the kinds of soft skills that if you can encourage those, because there are a lot of talented designers out there. There are creative coders who can do some neat things. But I think just encouraging them to do as much as possible and fail as much as possible so that
Yeah,
they can get to different results.
that's a good thing to bring up because I think my biggest problem has been speed. Like the students just don't ideate very quickly. It's that idea of like rapid prototyping, failing, making mistakes. It's not. It's over the years. It's kind of slowed down a lot. At least from an observation, I bet.
Yeah, I believe it.
Well, it's funny. Oh, Matt, I see your hand there, and I think in some ways, like I love the fact that you included that band photo. Like the more I think about it, like I feel like agencies, or like particularly like small agencies, like they're kind of like bands, and like you kind of like you're not a solo musician, and you got to kind of like learn how to play with a group. Is my experience, and it's like.
Yes.
It's like you might be able to play like the guitar and drums, but you might just need to choose and like find someone like great to play with. I don't know if you think.
Yeah, yeah, and the more you play with good musicians, the better you're going to get. But you do have to work in concert. No one person can do everything. Being a journalist means you can do a little bit of everything, but yeah, you need partners. So yeah, you gotta learn to play well with a band. I like that, Josh.
Yeah, and I think prototyping and all that stuff is like it's kind of fun when you're doing it with other people. Like I don't know, I like it's like do you really want to fail all the time by yourself? Anyway, I'm taking up too much space. Anne, you had a question. Anne was actually a speaker here at Future
Yeah,
Spaces.
former Meow Wolf here. Fascinated to see Atlas 9. First of all, your entire journey was super generous to share it, and I really loved it, and I loved how it built. You are shockingly humble for the impact of your work and the inventiveness of it, and the credit you give to your collaborators. So, hats off to you for that. But as I
Thank you,
look
Anne.
at, I wasn't getting until Josh asked the question that this was something you guys have invested in yourself. So good luck with that. I know that's a
Thank you.
massive investment. Of course, I'm very curious to know square foot costs, but I'm not going to ask that here. But I will ask if you have how many guests you are hoping for. Just curious because it's Kansas City and I don't really know the metrics in that town. Also curious if you have F&B and merch that connects to the films. I'm just curious how big the ecosystem creatively goes.
Yes, there's food and beverage. There's I don't know if I can call it a full service restaurant, but certainly full enough. You
That's
can get
great to hear for you.
yeah, yes, merch as well. Um, as far as how we're going to have throughput there, I mean, it's in a pretty up and coming but busy area. There's Sporting KC, which is the professional men's soccer team that's right around the corner from that area. Uh, Things like a Margaritaville hotel just opened up right across the street from Alice 9. There are a number of other developments, retail, entertainment that are also right there. So it was a fastly growing area. So there is all the traffic that's going to come in from called the multi-state area. There's a big sports complex there as well. So families will be taking their kids to compete in regional tournaments. But Kansas City is also just a hot town right now. I mean, it really feels like I'll just throw out Austin, Nashville, Denver 30 years ago. And it's getting that kind of energy. And I know that because I used to live in Nashville, but there's just a lot happening. And I think a lot of folks are having conferences, big events. A lot of people are moving here as well. So think that's kind of what we're banking on. I'm kind of giving some vague answers, but there's
No,
certainly
no,
a
it's
lot
okay.
of
I'm
thought.
just curious that these are the things you have to look for in a community when you build something of that size. Who's going to come, and we know what else is happening. Anyway, it looks super
Yeah.
exciting, and I'm going to make my visit to Kansas City. I'm going to check it out. Josh, organize a group. We're
All
going.
right, I'll make it happen. I'll make it happen. Great barbecue. All right, we're gonna go Matt, Scott, Marcos. Matt, take it away. You there?
Come back, Matt.
It looks. Do you want to drop it in the chat? Journey.
That's me. How's it going? Oh, is it Matt or Journey? Sorry about that. Maybe I was
Oh,
misunderstanding.
sorry. Oh, I thought you were Matt. Okay, sorry.
Oh yeah, all good. My name's Journey. I work at Buck in Los Angeles.
Oh,
I'm a
sorry. I
creative
thought you
director.
were my friend Matt who was over at Journey.
Oh, that's
Oh,
You look
hilarious.
like
No,
Matt in that tiny little thing. Okay, Journey. Actual name. I'm so
expanding.
sorry.
Yes.
I got
Yeah.
totally confused.
huge fan of Buck, a huge fan of VT Pro.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. I've
Same.
been so lucky to work with both companies for about 15 years now. But in my own personal practice as a creative director who loves experience design, loves working in it, I think one of the big questions is always sort of like how much do you give your POV when you're working on a commercial piece of, architecture, whatever it is that you're building out? I was kind of imagining like walking into one of these big spaces. They've got a gigantic LED screen in the middle of their lobby or whatever. Do you speak to the stakeholders and ask them like, what do you want, people to feel when they enter this place? Or do you just say you want people to feel this? Like, do you have to just feel it out? How do you work these sort of things?
we, we sometimes struggle with that at DI because it's called the Midwestern niceness of, oh, it's just whatever you want. But you do have to come with a perspective, which I get. Some clients say, I'm paying you, so therefore you should do exactly what I tell you to do. It's like if you're paying us as experts, then we should also tell you what you need. So it maybe a good short succinct answer is it's a bit of both. Obviously, if you're a good steward of a company's brand, you certainly want to do a deep download into who they are, who they're speaking to, again, what that brand experience is, what folks should take away from that experience. But the clients don't know it all. So being able to offer a point of view that based on your experience, like here are different ways that you could experience that brand based on your space, the tools that are available, and yeah, so it's definitely a collaboration, but I would certainly say stick to your guns if you have a perspective. And like, I've done my homework. I've been doing this shit for years. So if I don't share this perspective, and they may say you're wrong, but yeah, you gotta stick to your guns and go with what you know and what you love.
Love it. I'm gonna throw in a quick 2 cents there, which is like the person that I saw that was the absolute best of this in my experience was my wedding planner. And like I've been married for like,
Mm.
quite a while now. But part of it was like he was in charge, but he was gonna like actualize like my wife's vision. And like I've never been upsold more in my life. Like fucking bled me out. So every time I'm like, negotiating with a museum, I'm like, man, I'm gonna channel my wedding planner. Like because it's like, yeah, there's something, because he was the best. He was the best, and so, but he was so expensive. Um,
Well, funny.
Scott, you have a question?
Yeah. So, hey, good to see you, Chad.
Likewise, Scott.
Yeah, I really am excited. I did not know about Atlas 9, and this really kind of plays into a conversation I've been having with a lot of people here in Portland about how to transform all of these buildings that we find ourselves in in so many downtown areas in the States now with work from home, with hybrid working, and the desire to have the third space that we used to have back in that our grandparents went to the Elks Lodge or bowling night and so I'd love for you to kind of talk about how you guys came about the decision to kind of move in this direction and what you think about how design can play a role in that search for third spaces and if you thought about that at all.
Ooh. Oh wow. Certainly a number of reasons why we decided to pursue it. I think One is Kansas City. I think everyone who lives here and who's been here for a while says, you know, there is something special about this, but it's still being treated as a flyover area. So just seeing how successful other location-based experiences or immersive art experiences have been, but also looking at what's missing and trying to incorporate that. So it was in our backyard. We had all the tools to create it. So I mean, if no one was going to hire to build one for them, then we figured we might as well do it ourselves. So we're doing it because we want to, because we can, and also because I think it's a sound business investment. But it's also a bit of a showcase for us. And not to say it's our executive briefing center or customer experience center, but being able to bring people here and then show them everything that's possible right down the road from here was that was another consideration. As far as your other point about like, gosh, what's the future of these kind of experiences? Where should they go? That's a big one. I've heard of old shopping centers being turned into entertainment centers, family entertainment centers, but also see a lot of ground up builds too. So as far as like where they go and what the future is, I like to think that this is kind of a dawn of a new era where it's the entertainment destinations aren't just Orlando or Los Angeles. They can be anywhere that people are and they want to have these kinds of experiences. I think that was also a reason why let's move fast, because folks might be ignoring Kansas City right now, but they're not going to be for much longer. So let's do this. Great questions, though. We'll have to grab a beer and talk about this some more next time.
I think I would actually love to. I might do a future spaces conversation just about this, because like I think it's actually very interesting, like the difference between being in Philadelphia and being in LA. Because like in Philadelphia we just like had all these historic buildings that just like I wanted to just like gut them and fix them, and there was just like, and it wasn't like a lack of third space, it was a lack of people actually going to like the spaces that existed, or like they were just dinged up, and then it's like
Yeah.
LA is
I
the
mean, people didn't used to think much of Nashville. When I was a punk rocker in Nashville and skater in the 80s,
yeah.
there was a great punk scene there and nobody knew about it. So it's great, it's great to see you doing that for a city that I know probably has an awesome scene and a local culture.
Yeah, there are plenty of dead buildings in downtown LA. That is totally true. Okay, I'm not going to take any more space. We're gonna find some time to carve out that conversation. Marcos, you had a question.
Yeah. Hey, Chad. Nice to see you again.
You
You
too,
kind of
Marco.
answered a little bit of my question ahead of me asking it, but was some of the thought process behind Atlas having a live prototyping space where you guys can try out new ideas that you're either currently engaged with other clients or wanting to take to other clients, and having a real space that can actually be used as a showcase? You kind of already answered that, but I'd love to understand how much of coming up with this idea was based on that versus, actually going with a business plan to investors and designing it for a space that could potentially return on your investment through ticket sales and an event and that idea. I'd like to understand that balance a little bit.
Sure. I mean, thankfully, the team has done the kinds of things we're incorporating in the Atlas 9, at least to a large degree, things we've done before. It's like how we fabricate the right kind of materials, what's going to hold up to uh, abuse, what is economical. So those kinds of decisions were, I think that's more inherent in who we are and what we do. The rest is, we honestly wanted to be smart about this, and we put a lot of work into the conceptual ideas of what it is. But I mean, in order to go seek money, you do have to think of it as a business. And as I said earlier, we couldn't do it alone. So we needed the right kind of partners, because building it is one thing, operating it is another. So lot of conversations, a lot of lessons learned. But I'd say like the fun part was coming up with the storylines and what it might look like. After that, it got a hell of a lot harder. Like, oh, how much money can we get? All right, we're going to have to rethink how we do this. So it's just like any other client project. There's value engineering involved. There's some trials and errors along the way. But yeah, I think you and I should also go grab a whiskey sometime, and that way we can talk about it in depth.
Sounds good. You got the right drink too.
All right, amazing. All right, Ryan, I think we got time for one more question.
Oh, I just made it in. Under the wire. Could you just go back to a second? Because you said something that was very near and dear to my heart about making a case for hiring generalists. And it's something that I've tried to push for because I myself am a generalist and I've moved around, but it's hard to convince colleagues who are sort of set in this person doesn't have the depth of experience we want in this role. How do we, how do you convince people? Is there more do you have a strategy for how to convince people or how to convince colleagues to take that chance?
I think it's really just starting with uh, let's identify the primary skill. Okay, we see the potential in everything else that someone can do, but I guess we need a 3D artist right now, and they seem to be pretty solid with that. Or they are used to working with web stack, but I see that they're tinkering with other things. So hey, they can learn touch design. It's probably more about just identifying that primary skill that you can put them to work with right away, but then continuing to grow them and expand their horizons because you can see that potential. I think that's the strategy really is all right, let's get them under the auspices of they're doing X, but we know they can do a hell of a lot more than just X. So hopefully that answers your question in a high level
Thanks.
sort of way. You bet.
I think yeah, and Chad, I think generalists are like curious people, and like you and I have had to pivot a ton. Like,
Oh,
it's like if we weren't generalists, so like we have like unemployed Flash developers. Like,
yeah,
so and like honestly, particularly in turbulent times, when like there's a lot of disruption, which like AI is going to create a ton of disruption, like people who are willing to like explore and pivot and curious, which I think generalists are, like, yeah, I think it's a good psychographic to go after.
agreed. Theater kids, yes, I just saw that. Theater kids are fantastic, especially in this space.
I'm also an ex-theater kid, so maybe that's why it's so near dear to my heart.
Better get
There
some
we go.
wonderful. All right, so Chad. All right, we're almost at time. Do you want to sign us off? Do you want to tell us like some things that we can do to support you? Any sort of parting words of wisdom?
Ooh, it's nice to meet you all, even though I didn't really get to meet you. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm not a big social media person otherwise, but I am on LinkedIn. So please connect. Please stay curious. Please keep supporting future spaces. I got to tell Josh face to face, virtually at least, that what this is an amazing platform, and you've collected some terrific people. I'm humbled to be a part of it, but yes, keep it going because people are learning from this. I really loved all the sessions. I think everyone here will agree.
All right. Well, man, loved having you. Love seeing you. We're gonna figure out a way to like, next time you're in LA, or maybe I'll get myself out to Kansas City, check out what you're building out there. But always lovely to see you. Thanks everybody for joining today. Always wonderful to see your faces, to see y'all in attendance. We'll do it again next week, early Wednesday with talking about Gagarin stuff that's happening in Iceland. But Chad, thanks again, man. This is awesome.
Thank you, Josh.
All
Thanks,
right.
Thanks,
everyone.
Chad.
Yeah. Have
Thank
a great
you.
one.
Thank you, Chad. It was just great. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.